folks. Welcome to Thinking Theology. I'm Don, looking at Richard Branson's take on evolution. I don't know what else he's got to say about things, but Branson is a pretty cool dude. He founded Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Records. Now he's been involved with Virgin Galactic, I think is the name of his aerospace company. And I don't mean like Boeing. I mean like going into very low orbit, but taking things out of Earth's atmosphere. And he himself did it a couple of years ago, I think, or last year, did an initial launch where they were in zero gravity for a little bit, but then came back into Earth's atmosphere, obviously landed safely. But let's see what he's got to say about evolution and whatever else he's talking about. Oh, and I'm wearing my UK hat because he's a Brit. Here we go.
I mean, lots of dramatic things have happened to you over the years, Richard. I can never work out if you're one of the world's unluckiest people or luckiest, because you always manage to survive, and yet you do get bedeviled by all these crises. Which camp do you think you're in?
It's a good question. I mean, I was arguing with a friend about the existence of God or not over dinner in the Great House just before this fire took place. And the next morning I was thinking, now, is God was God really nice to us by allowing us all to survive, or was he punishing me for questioning his existence? But anyway, I have been very fortunate, and in an extraordinary amount of times, and somebody's very kind up there anyway in getting us back from balloon trips or boating trips or whatever safely, and so I am grateful, and I'm now spending most of my life trying to say thank you by working quite hard on important causes to try to make a difference. So we'll see how it goes.
Do you believe more or less in God since the day after your conversation over dinner?
Well, look, I believe in evolution, and I think evolution is magnificent. I mean, absolutely wonderful. And I think this world that we live on is magnificent, and the creatures on it are magnificent.
Never heard it put that way, that evolution is magnificent. Most folks take a stoic view of it, or like it's the way it works, mostly encountering theological arguments that the earth came into existence, boom, because God spoke it, and then the creatures showed up and all this. Never heard it worded that way, that evolution is magnificent.
And we've got to fight to, save the tigers and, save the lemurs and save the imperiled species and look after the people that are on this earth. I do think that religion has done a lot of harm over the years, and just because one's born in one country and not another country, one shouldn't necessarily think that our God is the right God and somebody else's God is the wrong God. So I see myself as a humanitarian, who loves people. Maybe one day somebody will be able to convince me that there is a God and there is a particular God. But to me, I love people, and that's to me the most important thing.
Do you ever pray?
I found myself on one of my balloon trips where, I was 99% definitely going to die, crossing the Pacific. Everything had gone wrong that could go wrong. There seemed to be, no way out of it. And I think there was a little bit of sort of, saying, if you exist, I'll be really grateful if you can get me to the other side of the Pacific. And
despite the fact that you survived that, Richard, with the 0.1%, you still don't believe.
Well, look,
it's a bit churlish, isn't it?
I would love to believe, and I think it's very comforting to believe. My father died recently, and he was he didn't believe, but he was a wonderful man, and wonderful family man, wonderful with people, great sense of humor. but it will obviously it'd be very comforting to feel that that he's still somewhere. But he's definitely with here in spirit with all of the
Yeah.
family. If somebody can convince me that there is a God, it would be obviously be wonderful. But I do believe that evolution is likely to be likely to be the truth. Anybody who questions evolution, I find it completely and utterly bizarre because and evolution is magnificent. That's all I can say.
He said it again. Yeah, I mean, I think that view that religion has done a lot of harm, I think people take that a little too far in the sense that it's selective. All right. Yes, there has been harm done, but in non-religious countries, people kill each other there too. And people are oppressed by their governments. There are horrors that take place right now in North Korea, in the slave camps and such. So I think it's specious. I think it's true that you could look at the Inquisition, or you could look at infidels must be put to death and such. And that those are harms, those are real, and they have happened. But to say that that's the sole source, like if we eradicated religion, we'd all be singing Kumbaya, it's just faulty, because there have probably been more deaths over land grab and mineral grab and money grab than over religion. I don't know what the numbers are, and I'm not a defender of religion because I'm not a churchgoer, and I'm not a big believer in religion, so to speak. I think it's rational to think that there's some being, some energy, something that gave rise to the matter that we see in the universe. And I also think it's equally rational to think it didn't happen that way. My assessment of why I think it makes more sense is the way in which we humans process beginnings, that things just don't materialize from nowhere. And using that as a basis, and that's a rational basis, it's a psychological, it's sort of embedded in our psyches that when we see something, it came from somewhere. Whether it's a tree, we say, all right, it came from a seed. And where did that seed come from? Well, a bird grabbed a seed from the next town over and took a dump, and it grew in the ground, and that's where it came from. We tend to look at origins. Where did this come from? But then the counter to that is, well, then where did God come from? Or where did this creative energy come from? And we don't know. And we can't replicate it in a lab. And so it's equally rational to think, okay, I can't explain it, but I'm not satisfied that there was this being that just always existed. And that's why I don't take a hard stance. What Richard said was interesting. I don't know if you picked up on it, but he said it would be comforting to know that to believe in God or a particular God. And I really like that distinction, because this creative energy we might call God or a spirit or something that's outside our normal physical nomenclature. But he said particular God. Maybe he, she, it has a name. And, the Hebrew Bible, YHWH. It's, G-OD. It's too sacred to pronounce that name. And Christians have a name for God as well. And so be it. Muslims, Buddhists have different names for the creative energy, and polytheists have different names for their gods and so forth. I don't disparage them if they're decent folks. It's not my cup of tea. But what Richard said, that oh yeah, when he was 99% sure he was going to die in his trans-Pacific balloon flight, I think he was going around the world, but that got cut short at one point. He was like, I'd appreciate it if you'd get me out of this. And but otherwise, he's not especially convinced, not enough to invest his time on a daily or weekly basis into a religion or spirituality. And fair enough. Seems like a good dude. I'd like to hang out with him. It'd be a lot of fun. So anyway, all right, guys, you can leave your thoughts on that one. He thinks evolution is magnificent. It's a very artistic, creative, energetic way of saying that, yeah, it's just a different take on it. All right, have a great day, folks. Leave your comments. Please subscribe if you've made it this far. That'd be wonderful. Have a great day and keep thinking theology.